Okay, so the first one we want to talk about easy long run, right? What you need to know, what it can do for you, so you know that every time you run, right, you need to think about why you are doing it, right? Because every session there's an objective. So today we just talk about easy run, and so that you won't be confused with other things. So after there's three topic here, not subtopic. So you can ask question towards the end of one of the subtopic. I will open for Q&A before going on for the next one. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is what is actually easy long run and what can it do for you, right? So the first thing is that it's a run that you normally done in between 30 minutes up to 180 minutes. I didn't talk about distance. If you look at some of the, I'm not sure how many of you will go and Google and find like, oh, who are the, what is Mo Farah, Malish look like, what is Kipchoge, Beckley, or I don't know, Kawauji or whatever, maybe. I don't know whether we can find any local Malaysian training mileage. Now, you will see that they do a lot of easy run and the mileage is very long, right? It can up to like 200 to 300K a week in total. Some of them only do half of it, like 130 to 140K per week. That is when they are preparing for races. What about normal days, right? And also like why do they run so much? Like sometimes they do even like 30 40K of easy run. Then you're thinking like, how am I supposed to cover that in 3 hours? You know, when they only need like 2.5 hours to cover all these sort of things, because it's not really so much about just distance. I would say duration play a role. For you need to see where you are. So if you are a beginner, right, I said stick with the time first, right? You should not think about distance, because if you go into distance, right, you end up doing like way more than other people. You may think like, yeah, but we are running the same mileage, but you spend so much time on the run, you know. People take like 2.5 hours, you may end up doing 6 hours with the same distance. So I prefer to go with timing for easy run for beginners. If you are well trained, maybe people like Wai Chin like that, I will go for distance because it makes not much huge difference. Like I want Wai Chin to go for like, okay, 25K run. Maybe he can finish in less than 2.5 hours, you know, kind of things. So his will not be a different, but for you all, if I ask 25 kilometer, right, it may take you like forever to finish. So we rather split it up and go with like time duration. So for you to finish, but normally we for now, I think everyone stick with time, because as you get fitter, right? This is the next thing. As you get fitter, right, you actually able to run faster, right? So it's not like you constantly stick with the same distance, like or 20K and then all the time 20K. But in the future, but for now, you need to look where you are, which we'll go into that later on. So next thing is actually the purpose of easy run, right? Is actually to help you to build all those aerobic enzyme, right? And these aerobic enzymes, right, it helps you to like break down fat faster, convert your lactate into energy source faster to be used by your slow muscle or your slow twitch muscles, so that you don't accumulate too much this acid in your body. Uh, no, lactate turnover is to produce energy. The acid part is the pH, the hydrogen ion in your body. It can also helps with the turnover of your acid faster in the body, burn fat more. So fat burning can leads to the formation of mitochondria. We call mitochondria is the powerhouse that helps you to provide energy through oxidation process. Give you energy when there's available of oxygens. Okay, so that's why the more easy long run you're doing, it can slowly build up your enzymes, right, in the long term and in a large quantity. So people always say, like, when you run fast, right, you tend to use glycogen as your main energy source, right? Then the second thing is, then you think about it. But if I start running fast, right, I use energy. Then what about fat? Slow runner or people who seldom cover mileage, right? They actually burn fat slower because their aerobic enzyme is lesser than most people. you'll be surprised for elite athlete, right? When they run at higher speed, right? Even up to 18 or 19 kilometer per hour, right? They still burn majority fat, right? So it's like your 8 or 10 kilometer per hour is similar to those world-class runner at 18, 19 kilometer per hour. They're burning about the same thing as you. They just can run faster than you, right? So there's other thing involved, not just burning fat to make you run faster. It just makes you more efficient, all right, in terms of energy usage. That's why I was very surprised. Like last time I run, I see a lot of people when we were introduced to energy gel. Everyone just bring energy gel. They scared to finish energy, you know. Those energy gel is needed because a lot of people they didn't train properly before the run. So they just keep waking energy or they try to run faster, right, than what they usually can. So you don't see elite runner eat gel throughout the whole run except one. They'll always prepare one. And they don't bring it themselves because it's normally at the station. Sometimes they put in the drinks. They prefer to put in the drinks rather than eat the gel and then drink the water again. So they always mix in the drink first. Okay, so what can easy run do for you, right? It can help you to lower your resting and exercise heart rate. If you do more easy run, right, normally it will help you. I'm not saying tempo run cannot, but all exercise, they can do the same thing because they load the heart, right? And when you finish loading the heart become bigger and it takes time to load, right? And that's why you will notice that the more exercise you do, the heart rate during resting will be lower. That is normal for everybody. But in terms of safety, in terms of more like safe for you and also for long-term healthy heart, right? Easy run can provide the better solution rather than your tempo run and your interval running. Interval running does tax your heart, but it only come out with a very short timing, right? Tempo run, threshold run can, but you feel very tired because it takes both your muscle and also your heart at the same time. But easy long run, it can actually helps to tax your heart while your muscle doesn't really burden so much, right? Because easy long run is more about building the cardio part, right? Okay, so here, yeah, I just mentioned just now, it's the safest way to build your cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular means your heart muscle, right? If you look at people who have heart problem, right? People like it's across a lot of sport, especially team sport. Like we have it in basketball, we have it in football. A lot of high speed threshold kind of type of sports. Even in long distance running, you will also develop heart problems. That's because there's no one way to train to become fast. There's so many ways, right? Uh, I know a few top marathon runners that actually die of heart disease problem, and Malaysia also got a few top runners I know who actually collapsed because their heart suddenly stopped. These are the people who actually did a lot of tempo, threshold running, and high speed. Interval, not so much on the heart actually, it's more on the leg muscle. Before you can tax your heart, your leg already tired, you know. So people who constantly push too much threshold, right, you need to be careful because people, some of you would think like, if I don't push, I don't feel like I did any training. No, you will until there are time for you to run that threshold running, right? But most importantly, building cardiovasculars, the safe way is the better way to go. Okay. Okay. One of the things that easy long run, right? When you run, it's not just to cover mileage, you know, right? The first thing I learned about easy running is actually you need to learn to control your breathing first. And it helps you, right? It gives you the opportunity to control your breathing. So how to breathe, we're going to talk about that later on. So once you can catch the breathing, right? Once you can breathe comfortably, right? You can control your breathing while you're running slow, right? You can slowly up that kind of condition. It means that when until it reach until the point where you do fast running, right? You still can control your breathing because you learn this from easy run, right? So the second thing is form. When you run, right, you can always maintain your form because when you run too fast and you're too tired, right, sometimes you are not focusing on your form, right? You're just focusing on like whether you try to toughen up your mental strength because you want to finish the set and repetition. So your mind is constantly deal with um, the suffering of your body. You think like, okay, this no pain. Come on, guys, you can do this. When I say guys, you are talking to your muscle lah. Right? So you're telling your muscle like, come on, we can do this. Then you keep on you keep on trying to distract your brain from feeling and thinking all the pain, right? You actually neglect and forgot about your running form. And lastly, it actually teaches you about pacing, right? When you run easy, you learn how to feel your like every footstep. Does your left and right have any difference? And then you slowly correct it. And to correct form, right? And sometimes running, right? Running slow is one of the way you can build your form actually, and also your pace. So some of you will ask me like, if I run too slow, right, then my form will be affected. We will talk about the different type of easy run later on, because it's just not one type. Because you understand we have different zones, right? So I will tell you like how you're gonna do for the different one. Okay, because you can do easy run for a longer duration, that means you can actually cover more distance compared to other type of training. Because mileage play a very important role in endurance, whether it's cycling, swimming, or running. Okay, even football, basketball, not so much. Rowing, they spend longer time because they want to cover more volume, right? Because they want to build up the enzyme, like point I'm putting, we just mentioned about that. So before you can get this right, you should not actually increase your mileage by too much. So if you don't feel anything, like no injury, like you don't feel tired a lot when you're doing this, then it's time to up your mileage, especially when your heart rate already start to get lower, or with the same heart rate now you can run slightly faster pace, right? There's two possibility, there's three actually scenario here. So I will look into each scenario like, okay, the reason I give you timing, I don't give you distance because I'm gonna look at your pace. You can run faster, but if your heart rate also go higher, right, that means like you haven't adapted yet, like, because there's two things that involve where I talk about feeling comfortable, right? Uh, when you run, you feel easy. One of the things is because your muscle is strong, right? When your muscles are strong, you feel like very comfortable. So a lot of people misunderstood about when you run, right? When people say like you should feel easy, people was thinking like, it must be the muscle. The muscle should feel easy. That's one thing. But easy can be very fast paced, you know. Yeah, so there are other things you need to put into check, right? It's actually your heart rate. So if your heart rate shoot very high, even though you feel very easy, you need to lower it down because it's not the endurance training that you are doing. You're actually doing the different training, right? Right. If you always thinking like why some people are maybe people like Saw Chin here, like, or maybe now you can see people like Jason and so on, or people like Michelle, like in between intervals, right? You feel like why these people can recover faster? Why like when I do a 1K interval, I need like 3 to 4 minutes to rest, and then some people only just need 1 minute, right? So how fit they are, right? It's actually depending on the mileage also they are covering. When I say mileage, right, it's not any mileage, right? It's about this easy long mileage, right, that you are covering. Right, you can do a lot of mileage, but if 40-50% of your mileage all threshold, right, you may have problem with this because threshold build up acid lactic, right? Lactic is the energy source, but the acid is the hydrogen ion. That acid level in your blood, right, it can actually damage your aerobic enzyme throughout the longer term, right? That's why these two training cannot go in hand by hand at the same time. You cannot have long high mileage easy run at the same time you're going to do like high tempo run mileage in a week. So normally it depends on the phase and also the demand of your race, whether you're doing 10K, half marathon, full marathon, ultra marathon. Ultra marathon you don't need so much threshold training like this. It's a different story. That one is more to endurance. So normally it's about 5K, 10K, half until full marathon. Their threshold are different, the speed are different, so you need to look into it. Which event you want. This is where I'm gonna adjust for you. To make sure that you don't actually burn out yourself with too much threshold training. Okay. So if you want to do more interval, like I said, it's a base training. The bigger base you can build, the more interval training you can do because you require less time to recover now, and you doesn't need a lot of energy to run. Okay, just like I mentioned about energy, right? People who are very fit, right, you can still run high pace, right, and you can still burn fat. I always think like when we first started, like when we study about sports science, we were thinking like, oh, as you increase your speed, right, you shift your energy burning from ATP, which is the energy currency, to glycolysis, and then only you go to oxidation and you move towards it because you don't have enough oxygen because you need to run faster. But top endurance athlete, right? When I see them in the lab, right, they run 16, 17 kilometer per hour. They still burning fat like we are running like 12, 14 kilometer per hour for the Malaysian national athletes. So when you check the enzyme, right, you notice, right, their fat oxidation, the aerobic enzyme is like the mitochondria and other cells, right, is so high level compared to ours. So the recovery rate turnover is very fast, So then they burn fat faster because the fat burning enzyme has more than us. And then the moment it start already, they already burn fat already. Like even when you see people run fast during the first 2-3K of the run, right? You thinking, you run so fast, later you puncture, then only you know. They won't puncture. Only you will puncture if you follow them. Okay. So the same thing in Malaysia. You should not try to follow the faster runner, but that's where you are supposed to prepare yourself, lah. So understand your goal. Are you planning for? You try to go for podium? Are you going for PBs? People who usually have fast starting, right? They understand themselves, right? If you have a higher average pace, right, you can run at a higher pace while still burning fat, right? You don't have to start very fast. You can catch up with them anytime. I think after like midway of the run, and it also depends on the distance. If you're half and full marathon, you definitely have time to chase up to them. You don't have to worry about that. So as you get older, starting fast may not be your strategy. So it's different for younger people. Maybe they need to do that, right? Because they have different training. Because different training method will yield different outcome. So depends on your age group. Some of them you may need to start fast. Some of them you don't need, right? So doing more enough long run can help you recover faster during the fast run. Okay, so I think this is the last one for this point. So it's a very important factor, right, for development of longer race distance. That means if you want to join longer race distances, like especially half marathon and above, you need mileage actually. Okay, you need mileage. Mileage play almost like, if I want to say critical role, like it's almost like above 70% or 80%. Like it is very important for your race. 10K, 5K, you still can cut your mileage down to like 30, 40% of your whole entire thing. That means, so I give you an example. If in the long run, this is long run, not now. So you can see where you are now compared to the long run. You may need between 130 to 140 kilometer per week. This is maybe after 3, 4, 5 years of training that you can hold about 130 to 140K at least if you want to go for marathon. But for 10K, right, you can just cover about 70 to 90K for national world elite. Not world, Malaysia is still like 70, 90 is quite a lot for 10K. Some people, if you are not the speed type, you may end up covering more mileage. Some of the world also cover like 130, 140 and above, like Mo Farah, they all. You don't have to follow that because they has been training for like the past 8 to 10 years, so they accumulate the distance slowly. But average is about 130 to 140 in order to run your marathon comfortably fast. If you want to run fast, right? So some of you will ask, you'll notice that the distance I'm giving you is about close like 40, 50. And then you notice that you can actually run faster. But before I increase the mileage, right, some of the thing I need to check is actually injury. Because injury can tell me like what's actually happening to your run. So is it you're running too fast for your easy run? What about your heart rate? What about your breathing? What about your other factor like your commitment? If you cannot do double session a day, can you do like single session but longer session? It's no right and wrong. It's about your schedule, right? You're all not full-time athlete, maybe except Wai Chin. So you need to know your commitment and how do you play this into it. So of course, if I can give you longer mileage, I would prefer to do that. But if you are constantly very busy, right, it's very hard for me to give you double mileage. So I need to work in a way that can give you the optimal effect with the minimum mileage. Okay. All right. So okay. Lastly, if you done moderately, right, actually easy long run can give you a lot of health benefit, prevent you from having heart problem, research show that it can actually improve your longevity, moderate level. That means that when I say moderate, right, now I give you the answer, not more than 70 or 90K a week. The research show that if you go beyond that, right, your longevity actually will be U-turn, really shorten. There will be a U-turn effect, right? So yeah, because doing more that means you need to actually like cover more, so like injury may happens, right? Okay, now other thing I need to talk about easy long run is this. Whether I will give you another longer distance to run, right? It's also based on another factor which I think is very, very important. Not one, there's a few. The first one is mainly the surface of the place where you run, right? If you are constantly running like looping instead of running on the track, right, you loop in the football field which got the line, you can go and loop, and then you can do a lot of off-road running, then it will be a good for you to cover even more longer mileage, right? Because running too much on hard surface like tarmac and concrete, right, even Kenyan body so light also they don't want to do it. What more to say, you if you have a heavy body weight, right, or higher BMI, right, body mass index, then you end up running faster for this, which is not an advisable thing, right? So I think what happened is you all will switch into the high cushion shoes now in order to be able to deal with the injury part when running on the tarmac road. But wearing high cushion shoes also will present itself another challenges and problem, which we will talk on another session. It's a long session about cushion shoes. There's a lot of journals supporting that, which I'll present it. Okay, so that's the first part. Anyone got any question on the first part before we go for the frequent asked question about easy running? This is the one I get from most of you, right, who asked me the question. Anything on the one that I just presented? So I move on to the, you see whether your question is in the FAQs. Okay, so go to the easy FAQ first. Okay, the first question I always get, what is it? Oh, what's the difference between easy run, LSD, and long run? Okay. Another one I want to add in here is people ask me, like, is there a difference between easy run and recovery run? Normally, recovery is slower. It's like cycling also, swimming also, you got your recovery swim. It's just as slow as possible, right? Technique, you're not focusing on the cadence. Sometimes cycling, maybe yes. Swimming, not really. Running, also not really, because it can be as slow as you want. The main thing about recovery, right, is to keep the blood flowing, right? The pace is not an issue, the heart rate is not an issue, but normally it's very, very low lah. Okay, that means that you need not to focus about that, but breathing should be very comfortable. So easy run, LSD, and long run, what's the difference, right? You will see some video where people say like, we need to do a lot of long run, and they're doing like 40K per session, 25 to 40K. They call it long run. Then you look at the speed like, wow, that's damn fast, man. So what is actually long run, right? If you were in this discussion last week, we talked about the zone, right? Some of the long run are done in zone 2, and for fast runner, maybe like people like Eliud Kipchoge kind of people, right? Their actually long run is almost like close to their marathon pace already, right? Closer. But for you, it may be slower than your marathon pace. All right. So everybody will be different. So easy run, like I said just now, you got 30 minutes is the minimum. Some people will do like 20 minute, 15-minute easy run also can, right? So easy run means like super, super easy. The only difference between LSD and easy run is that the terms is given by LSD means long, slow distance. That means you're doing easy run slow, but you're doing like longer distance, like can be 10K, 15K, 20K, 25K, 3K, not 10, 3 hours of run, like 25K, 30, 32. I don't recommend you all go until like more than 32, especially if you prepare for a marathon. Maybe for ultra running, you may need to do up until 50K if you're doing the 100K running, right? But of course, in between you stop lah. Not many people ultra runners. I'm talking about the general. I'm not talking about the elite because I don't want you to confuse. Unless there are some of you prepare for elite level, so they normally have breaks in between, man, even though during the 50K. So it's okay for them to stop actually, right? Because they are not running flat for 50K, you know, they are running up high terrain, up the slope hill and then down the hill. So sometimes it's very taxing, so they need to rest for a while. But if you're doing like marathon running, right, and you're constantly running like cross country off road but flat on the field, right? Unless you're bored, if not, then you can actually do like continuous like 25K non-stop, right? Like I said, the distance will be depending on the surface that you're running. So what about long run? Now long run have a few terminology for different people. Faster people, right? The long run is definitely faster, right? For most of you, I prefer you all go it slow, doing it easy. So when I say long run, right, it's normally also close to your marathon pace actually, right? So so you notice some of you, right, when I give you long run, right, I give the incremental, right, like 6 minute 30, 6 minutes, and then you may finish with 5:30 pace, or you start with 7:37 and then finish with 6:30 pace. Because long run, there's different function, but of course I would say one thing, right, when you run easy long run or even long run, normally people start very slow one. I ran with Kenyan runners before. When they start, right, they run slow. They normally run very slow one, like 7:30 pace, 7 minute pace. You feel like, what kind of pace is this? But as you progress, right, like after like 1 hour, right, they will pick up the pace one. Then you reach about like 6:30 pace, 6 minute pace, and then maybe the last 5 minutes you're finished by 5:30 pace. So if you ask them like, what's your long run? What pace should you run? They themselves don't have the answer for you. They just need to know. They only know one thing: long run is to run very long. That is the definition, right? So what kind of pace do you run? It depends whether you're downhill, uphill, do a lot of up the slope kind of thing. So the speed is different. Like I said, you can do steady state speed, constantly one speed, or you can do incremental speed, right? Getting faster and faster, right? For like every stage, maybe each stage is 15 minutes or 20 minutes kind of stage. You can play along with that, right? Right. How fast should I be running for my easy long run? I just mentioned just now, right? Uh, you should feel very comfortable, right? Your breathing should be controlled. If you're so worried, like I really don't know how to breathe kind of thing, you need practice on this, because easy run, the first thing when I do easy run is focusing on the breathing. I don't look at the heart rate, I don't look at the pace, the breathing coming first, right? You make sure you can control, and then you run at the pace that you can control, right? Any pace that is faster than the breathing that I can control, right? I definitely will slow down. But of course, there are other type of monitoring method, like we mentioned last week. People talk about MNF, right? Then you fix on your heart rate. So they have this heart rate. So you must constantly run at the heart rate, right? You cannot run faster than that. But if you feel like your heart rate is going up, even though you're maintaining the pace, you need to drop your pace until your heart rate is level. Same. That means, if correct me, I'm wrong. That means MNF training, if I'm not wrong, based on the formula and the way they suggest, is that if your heart rate is 140, that means you should not go above 140, right? Even if you need to slow down your pace, that is what MNF is about. When I talk about easy run, right, that means your breathing must be able to be controlled. Your pace may slowly increase. It's not a big problem, because you will not increase the pace very rapidly or drastically, right? So as long as your breathing is in control, you feel your muscle rate easy, right? And you don't, and your heart rate is low, right? That's okay already, right? So as long as there's a range for it, so there's no one fixed number I prefer to that, because most importantly is what can you get from your body, the feedback. So this is what I call the feel element, how you feel you're supposed to be running. Then that's where you come in, that's where the pace come in. Then you see your pace, like, okay, what's your pace, what's your heart rate now? Because you already locked down the thing you need to do for easy run, which is your breathing and your form. Okay. Then you check on your heart rate and your pace, like, okay, what is my easy pace, what is my easy heart rate. That's how the not just the all time, like even now the fast runner, I mean, like those world class runner, they are doing that. They're not using pace and heart rate to determine how fast they need to run for the easy run. Okay, except for interval, they are interval are based on speed. Pace is one very important element for interval. How frequent should I do my easy long run? It depends. Like I said just now, 70-80% of your total mileage should be on your easy run. But like I said, some of you are maybe the speedster type, like so I like that, right? You respond better for speed running. So maybe you do like 70% of the easy long run. But if you respond well to slower run, right, you can go for longer distance because you prefer to do that, right? So let's talk about frequency, right? If you have 7 sessions a week, okay, 1 day rest, so you have 6 sessions, right? I suggest you do 4 easy long run sessions, 1 speed and 1 tempo. If that's your easy, if that is the common thing. So sometimes you can do five easy plus 1 tempo. There's no speed run as well, or you can do all easy, but some easy you are uphill easy. You just do a lot of rolling hill easy run, right? So it's a different thing. So if you maybe you still do 4 easy, 1 strength training, and the other one is cross training, you can do that. So if you're doing like 11 session or 13 session, I know some of you are doing that. So if you're doing those 11 session, okay, for average, most of you are doing 9 to 11 session. You should go like about 6 to 7 session is easy long run, right? Now I'm saying this is because you are splitting your longer session into shorter session. Instead of doing like 90 minutes in a single session, maybe you're doing 45 or 45 30 kind of minute. So it increased the frequency. So it's okay. It's still okay, right? So 70 to 80% easy run. Okay. Okay. Should I be eating anything before my easy long run? Long run. Sorry, I need to correct that. It's not long run. It's long run. You use the lung to run. Okay. So depends in the morning or in the evening. If you're doing your easy long run in the evening, right, and it's like more than 1 hour or 90 minutes, right, you can run, right? You can eat and run, light breakfast. Or if you just started, and if you have the habit of eating breakfast before you run, I suggest you stick with it for now, because if you keep on disturbing your morning breakfast, right, it may cause gastric kind of thing to your body actually, right? So, but since I stopped eating breakfast for my easy long run, I don't develop any gastric. Neither is my wife, who used to have a lot of gastric. So now, uh, food is the habit. So if you want to change, you have to do it like progressively, like slowly change, not like immediately change the whole thing. Uh, Research did show if you run it with if you do easy long run with low glycogen or empty stomach, you can actually have a better adaptation in producing your aerobic enzyme. Actually, right, a lot of our national athletes, they actually don't really eat breakfast in the morning when they go for running, right? Um, some of them, they tell me they are not used to it. Some of them is because they just wake up late, right? So they're rushing for training. They just drop the breakfast and they just keep training with that. And some people, they do like that. But the all those disciplined one, the one I know, those back in the 60s, 70s, they told me in the morning they will eat 1 piece of bread with some kaya or something, and then they'll drink one small glass of milk before they go and run. Right. Those are for those that are doing those 60 to 90 minutes easy long run in the morning. And then after that, they'll go to school kind of thing or go to work. Okay. So you can test around, make sure that you don't eat too much until it affect your running. Do I need to drink during my easy long run? Okay. Normally, how I test that you are actually doing the right pace, right? And breathe right, you notice that you can actually don't feel like drinking anything, or you don't feel like it's necessary for you to drink anything between the 90 minutes run, especially within 90 minutes run, right? If the weather is humid and hot, maybe you feel a bit thirsty, because if you're a mouth breather, right, you will definitely feel like thirsty for a while. If you are a nose breather, you don't feel like your throat is thirsty. You don't feel like there's a need for you to drink because you're not sweating at all. Okay. And if the morning, if you have drink enough, then you don't have to drink during the easy long run. But if you want to drink water, you can bring some water with you, small, just in case maybe that day you don't you forgot to drink in the morning, you're rushing, then you can just grab a small bottle kind of thing and bring with you during your run. Can I do strength workout after my easy long run? Yes, you can, but not go and do heavy run, especially after you do a 2.5 hour or 90 minute and above kind of easy run, right? And you feel like very tired. You feel like your knee you feel like your knee is loosened up already, right? You better don't go and carry those heavy weight in the gym. Okay. And yeah, also other thing is like don't do a lot of like higher jumps kind of thing. Your knee may not have the support. Right? You can do the ankle bound, but don't do those like box jumps or whatever higher jumps jump very high and then kind of things, or drop jump. Don't do that after your easy long run. So strength workout, the light one, even most of the elite athletes, a lot of them are actually doing easy light or resistance training after the easy long run. Okay, so just to recap what I'm saying for that is that, so if you want to do easy run, you can go for a faster pace for the shorter distance, like those 20-30 minutes. And if you go longer, you can drop your pace a bit. Make sure you're breathing. The number one thing is always breathing, right? You feel comfortable. Make sure you can control your breathing. I will talk about the type of breathing you go through later on. Smooth breathing, low heart rate, comfortable pace. Frequency will be up to 90% of total weekly mileage. You want to go 100% also no problem, right? Because sometimes if you come back, you feel so tired, you don't feel like I want to do any tempo run or any speed interval kind of thing. So you can go with 90% of easy workout. Eat if go for longer easy run. If you want to eat, you can go ahead, no problem. I suggest, especially like you have very early dinner and you feel like you want to have something to bite, then just get something to bite. Like sandwich also can. Make sure that you can test the food actually in the morning to see like what food actually you feel comfortable taking during easy run, because 3 to 4 weeks before your marathon race, like you need to train to eat before you run, right? Because there are two parts in eating. You are eating for adaptation, you are eating for racing. Same with training. We got train for adaptation, we are training for racing. So there are two different parts of it, right? So either way, before race, you need to train to eat. I know there are people who never eat from training all the way until racing. It's not something unusual, but there are people who never eat even during race, and they can run at quite high pace. Whether if they eat, they can go faster or not than what they currently capable of, I do not know, because they refuse to eat. So I do not know. Right. So yeah, it's not within my control for this. Okay. So should you drink? Just drink small bottle in case hot water or hot weather, right? So can do resistance. Can do strength training. I suggest you do light resistance and weight training type of workout, right? You can do more repetition like lightweight, like squat. If you want to do squat, you can carry, the barbell without the weight. The barbell is already very heavy, 20 kg. You can do like 20, 30 kind of squats after your easy run. But as you grow older, right, carry heavy weight is almost something that is very hard to do, and also to prevent injury, it's better to do lighter weight but more repetition. Okay. Okay, so we talked about last week we talked about the heart rate zone training. If you want to use the heart rate to guide you, right, make sure it's within the zone 1 and zone 2 of the higher bracket. Right. So the red color one is the higher bracket of zone 2. The blue one is the higher bracket of zone 1. I know, like I say, is right. When you run, normally during the beginning you do very easy. The first 10-15 minutes. After that, your speed will definitely pick up one. I would say don't go over than zone 2, right? Because the high bracket of zone 2 is actually the optimal speed for you to develop more those aerobic kind of things. But if you want to go for longer distance, right, maybe zone 2 may not be something sustainable for you, especially if you want to do like 2 hour and 2.5 hour thing. Maybe you need to drop to zone 1. But the other way is to start the first half of it as zone 1, right? And then you can go for zone 2 and the second half of it. So when I do 2 hour to 2 hour 30 minutes, my first 75 minutes, right, I'll run in zone 1, or first 60 minutes zone 1. The second 1.5 hour, I will hit zone 2. Or maybe the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I'll go for zone 3 for finishing cuffing, just to feel good, right? So you can play around with this, right? The 2 zones. So like last week, I show you this graph where it talk where is the MAF kind of things. So if I were to follow MAF, right, I won't be able to hit zone 2 actually. I can only stick with zone 1, right? So that means forever I'm hitting in zone 1. The thing with zone 1 is that it may affect my running mechanics, because a proper running mechanics, right? When the people who teach you how to run properly, right? All this running technique, right, is actually for you to run fast during racing, If you observe carefully, right? Even in like sprinter for 100 meter, the 400 meter runner, the 800 and the 1500 meter runner, the 1005 runner, right? 3K and 5K runner and 10K runner, you notice the way they run, they are running differently one. That means as they run, right, you notice one thing is, what's the difference? The stride getting shorter. That's the first thing. The way they kick also slightly different, right? So different distance using different muscle. That's why it's good for you to train all. But as you get longer, right, it's different. If you drop the speed somewhere, right, it's very hard to run in a very beautiful technique, right, and still keep the pace super slow, right? It's very hard. If you have a chance, right, you go and Google, right, and you will notice, right, even the world-class athlete like Kenyan runner, when they do all the recovery run, easy run, right, you look at their legs, it's not like there's a horse position, right, where they are doing the easy run. Their heel even rarely kick up actually, right? And the hips also rarely drive the momentum. They just swing, they just jog in a very small step, easy, right? They don't open the stride and run easy run. So different speed will have different run. So that's why I said from here, if I were to follow MAF method, I would not able to go for zone 2 already. But I said if you are someone who just started and you don't do a lot of speed work, keep it in zone 1. Okay, just keep it in zone 1. Like I said just now, there's another thing that can affect your easy run, which is your muscle. So if you're constantly who have done a lot of speed work, right, or interval or tempo run, right, when you do your easy run, right, you feel like zone 2 is very easy, right? Some of you will think zone 2 is very difficult because you are the mileage type, you just do a lot easy run. So people who have never done speed work, right, when they do MAF, after a while, you notice that they can run slightly faster, because if they have a lot of fat, right, once they burn off their fat, right, the body get lighter, right, then they can go faster. But they can only go faster until a certain stage, right? Because MAS training alone cannot help people to run super fast in a marathon or Ironman or ultra running. If your goal is to run fast, if your goal is just to finish, then MAF can benefit you. Okay, just to brief the zone training, the pace, right? When people talk about the zone, right, they got the endurance zone. So these are the endurance zone they are talking about. So you can find this in Polar, you can find it in Garmin. So what does it mean? So zone 5 normally is the speed they do for VO2 max. So when they do the endurance zone 5, the maximum 100% is VO2 max. Normally VO2 max are the speed that you can run the fastest from 3 minutes up to 8 minutes. So if I want to change that to distance, it's about 1K to 3K. But for the slower runner, I prefer to use 2 minutes or 600 meter, okay? Or the more senior one, like those above 50 years old, then I'll drop the distance and drop the things, because 600 meter, you also need to take close to 3 minutes already, okay? So for faster runner, they can run between 800 to 1K within 3 minutes. So, but today we talk about zone 1 and zone 2, so you can look at that. Will be the chart. Just don't go to the tempo. But like I said, if you want to try it out during the last 5 to 15 minutes of your maybe like 90 minutes run, you can it up to tempo pace. And maybe the last 100 meter, maybe you can do some sprint finishing just to feel for a feel good factor kind of thing. Okay, any question on this?
Okay, I got a question. I record it. I wrote down
Okay.
it. So
Okay, what is
I
it?
want to ask for the 5K, 10K run.
Hmm.
Like you say high pace, even though their heart rate are low. Like for the race purposes, like if you want to run even faster, technically our heart rate gonna be very, very high, right? Our heart rate going to be definitely going to be higher, much higher than the easy heart rate if you want to run at a much faster pace. And I want to ask how actually do we have I mean, can we train our body to how to say, do we have enough run like 10K running at a high pace and all the way, like without using, try not to, when before the fat system comes in, we use mostly like close to anaerobic kind of thing to sustain the pace. Like what's the question actually? So the question is about, okay, I think never mind lah. I will repair the question and ask again. Let me repair the question.
Okay. I think I get what you mean. I try to explain this to you, right? Now, the main objective of any race, right, is actually to be as efficient and fast possible, correct? Right? Because race are won by people who can complete it in the shortest time possible,
Just the time. Yep,
right?
yep,
Nobody
yep.
care if your heart rate is low or high, correct or not? Nobody care. Yeah, when you finish the run, you number one, you have high heart rate or you have low
Does
heart
that
rate.
mean heart rate high? Does that mean heart rate high, then the pace will be faster than the heart rate low? Or heart rate low can have a higher pace than people who run at a higher heart rate?
Okay, let
Ah,
me refresh the whole thing and then let me
yeah,
explain to you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, now the person who need to be fast, right? If you want to win race, right?
Ah,
Your heart rate must be able to go very high. You must be able to deal with high heart rate. That's
yes,
the first thing, all right?
yes.
Now, there are different stages of running. If you notice, right? If you're doing any run, the first half of the run, right? Most people, right? They try to be as efficient as possible
Yeah,
before they start attacking. You notice or not, their pace are not consistent from the beginning until the end, right?
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
the
Yep.
first you see the first if you talk about 10K the first 3K they will attack each other first. They will pull away from the big group. They'll try to break the group into smaller competitors, right? And as they run, right,
To drop
it will
drop the
slowly
group first.
increase the speed to drop one by one. They don't
Yep.
start immediately, right? So the first 3K, right, they already start quite fast because they want to position themselves and not too far back behind. So if you fall too far back behind and the front group are pulling, right, you'll build a big gap. So the first phase, right, is about your ability to recover from high pace. So definitely your heart rate going to be slightly higher. But the trick is this, because it's only lasts for 1 or 2K. If you can run fast with a lower heart rate, right, from the beginning, right, then your heart will not be taxed very much. Okay, understand this? I'll explain later on what is
Yeah.
it. In the middle of the race, right, you are progressively increase your speed and you will progressively increase your heart rate. From the beginning, okay, let me cut it simple. From the beginning, it means like you run at the same speed, but if you can have lower heart rate than everybody else, your
Yeah,
heart
then you gotta
actually
win.
you can reserve more energy because you're more efficient than everybody else.
Yep.
Once you think it's enough time for you to make the attack, you must be able to deal with higher heart rate now because you're going to increase your speed to drop everybody else one by one, right?
Yep.
So whoever cannot deal with your, that means if they go for a higher heart rate before you can hit, normally people are this because it takes about 2 to 3K, right, to actually push the heart rate higher. If they're running they may be running same speed as you, but if you can run lower heart rate than them, that means later on when your speed, right, you can kill them off slowly because they're already at the maximum of the heart rate already. You still lower, correct or not? But then you also need to go for higher speed, so then your heart rate also need to go higher. So
Higher. Yeah.
slowly you need to test who is already at the maximum, right? They will be dropped. Then you can
Yep.
slowly pick up. So there's two things here. If you can run lower heart rate during the pacing stage, right, you have a
Mm.
greater advantage.
Yep.
The second thing part is the faster the ending, finishing, and also the second phase of the run is if you can go higher pace at the same time, you can hold a higher heart rate, you can win the race.
Yep.
So both people, right, they both have a high heart rate one. The question is who reach the higher heart rate faster. So easy
Faster.
long run, right, it can help you to build lower heart rate, right, while you can still run fast. This is normally the threshold pace. So doing after that, the second half, maybe the second half 5K or 3K, right, you need to pick up your speed now. Because you have playing around already. You have dropped most of your competitor already. Now you need to deal with the remaining one. So you have to test them out. So you need to be able to deal with high heart rate. So training with low heart rate is one thing. Training to push your heart rate to the higher level is also another thing, which you need to train, right? This is where the threshold training comes in, right? Now, people may be surprised just now they talk about like, yeah, but if like MAF training is talking about like, okay, you cannot push your heart rate above 140. It has a special effect actually on that. We call it low heart rate training lah. But when we talk about low heart rate, right, it's actually a range. It's not a dot. It's not a spot. So when we talk about low heart rate training, it can be like from 130 to 145 or 140 kind of thing. It's a range. Okay. Now, I think some of you noticed this before. When you maintain the same speed, right, comfortably for 2.5 hours, if you can hold for 2.5 hours, that means you get the speed correct already, right? But there's one thing you notice, right, is that your heart rate will slowly increase. Even when you run at the same speed, easy for the whole 2.5 hours, you notice it starts from 120, then slowly 130, 140, 150, 160, 170 plus, right? Sometimes even 180, depends if you do a lot of hill running. But then you really don't feel the burden on your heart because your running speed is very slow. You can feel like your heart is like, wow, you look at the watch, it's already like 175 to 180 average already, right? And this normally happens is because, like I say, if you're doing those, like the first half is zone 1 and the second half is zone 2, right? You normally experiencing the increase in heart rate also. So the best way for you to train higher heart rate for a longer period of time, right, is actually LSD. Actually, I noticed is actually LSD is more efficient, right? And to test whether you can deal with that, right, is actually doing your tempo run. When you do your tempo run, you need to hold high speed. Your heart rate is very high, right? How long can you hold that, right? It's actually depending how well you did your LSD actually.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. So LSD is also to build your heart rate actually. Interval is to build your leg muscle. Threshold run or tempo run is to test both the speed and the endurance both together, right? So if I'm not sure, there's two ways to build it. It's like for elderly people, I would prefer the MNF method, the low heart rate type to train. But for younger people, right, when you cover the heart rate will actually shoot up. It's actually one of the best way to train your heart actually.
Yeah.
You can sustain high heart rate for a longer period of time. If I can show you the data, you notice something is if you do like interval, 1K interval, your heart rate hold at 180, like for you, 180, right? You maybe hold for about 30 seconds only before it comes down or not. Correct or not?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so there's no adaptation. It doesn't adapt anything because it just go out for a while and come down.
Yeah.
If you do tempo run, it depends on your tempo run. If you do 10-minute tempo
fast.
run, right, the heart rate was slowly picking up, right? If you do a 10-minute, maybe only the second
slowly pick up.
5 minutes only you deal with that high heart rate, correct or not? And then you rest and drop down again. So you actually experience half of it. Imagine you do 2.5 hours, right? For your heart rate to deal with 180 beats per minute, longer than half an hour. You can only do that during a long LSD run, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
You do LSD, if you're doing like 90 minutes and above to 2 hours, you notice, right, your heart rate at higher level, you can hold like 170 to 180 and above, right, for a longer period of time. You're like eventually holding it for 15 to even 45 to 60 minutes at very high heart rate. Normally, not until 60. I've seen people until like 45 the max.
Yep. Okay.
Holding 45 minutes at 170 and above. It's quite high actually.
Yeah.
Okay. You won't see it in your watch because why? Because more of your watch is set in average heart rate. So average, right, you will notice it's only hitting 165 or 168 like that if you're doing LSD. You're thinking like, hey, okay, good, I didn't hit so high. But if you switch to the 5-second, right, you notice you're starting at 120. When you're finishing, right, you notice you're hitting above 170. That's why when people say when you train, right, they ask you to use average. But average is only taking across the whole thing. So if you finish 160, 165 for your LSD, right, that means you already hit above 170 already in a certain point of time. Okay, so that's it about the heart rate thing. So EasyRun application. Anyone else got question before I go? This is the last part, yeah. Okay, so this one we talk about breathing, right? I normally will prefer you do normally when you do the normal run, people ask you to do the 2-2 breathing, right? Like 2 in, 2 out. I personally prefer if you want to know like you're running very comfortable, you check and see if you can do the 3-3 breathing, like 3-3-3 the 3-3 rhythm, when like, or you can do one shot but slowly, like 3-3, right? Or you can do like 3 breathe in, 3 breathe out, okay. It's like your muscle is like you need to breathe in that three phases kind of in. Or you can do 3 in and 2 out, or 2 in and 3 out kind of things. So when you do slow running, you normally can breathe in longer and breathe out longer. Okay. So what about talk test? Some people use talk test to do your easy running, right? I would suggest like if you're monitoring your heart rate, I suggest you don't do too much talking. Because first thing, you increase your heart rate. Secondly, your mouth will dry very fast because you keep talking. But if you're very boring, you can talk lah. But then you better bring the small bottle of water with you so you can rinse your mouth and things, right? So that your throat don't dry very fast. Right. So the first thing I check is breathing. Like I mentioned, when you run, the first thing is breathing. The second thing I'll check is my posture. Right. I need to make sure that I run light. So if you lean too forward, right, you end up running fast. That's why leaning forward is for people to take advantage of gravity and momentum, right? So if you don't want to run too fast, you can straighten your body and make sure that it's aligned. When your bones are aligned on top of each other, right, when you run and take off, right, you feel your body like very light. If you lean forward, right, your back muscle have to hold you and your front muscle have to hunch and crunch in, So there's a muscle imbalance when you lean forward, unless you have a momentum kicking, pace, speed, anything to keep the momentum going. If not, like, it will be very taxing if you lean forward and run. And leaning forward sometimes will compress your lung. If especially there's two types of leaning forward. Some people leaning forward is like the hip, everything is like aligned and straight. Some people lean forward is the leg is straight, but the body is like bent to the front. There's two different things, so you don't hunch forward too much. So just keep your body relaxed, and when the bones align with each other, on top of each other, then when you run, right, you feel like very light because it's supporting your whole form. So these two is the main criteria for me. If you want to do easy run when you start running, right, breathing must come in. So you use this as a platform to train your breathing. And then when you run fast, right, then you adjust from there. Okay, only after that, I will monitor my heart rate. I'll see like, oh, so easy. So what's my heart rate? So you can split the heart rate between the first 15 minutes, the mid of the run. Depends on how long you run. If it's a 60-minute, maybe after 30 minutes, you check again. If it's 90 minutes, then after the 45 minutes, you check again. So the first 15 minutes, the middle part of the run, midway, and the last 15 minutes, I'll look at my heart rate again. Right. So if you're running, it's better for you to use your average heart rate for accuracy purposes. Okay. Because heart rate actually will increase. If you use the 5-second data feedback, right, you notice your heart rate will shoot up very high after you run for 90 minutes. So when you do use average heart rate, right, it will give you average value. If you show 160, actually towards the end, right, if you use the 5-second data feedback, right? You are actually hitting above 170 already. Okay, after I monitor heart rate, then I'll check on my pace. What kind of pace I'm running actually, right? What's the range from the beginning? The same thing, the first 15 minutes, when I'm looking at the heart rate, I'm also looking at my pace. So what kind of pace I'm running from the beginning? Is it negative split, positive split, or actually it's consistent from the start until finish, right? So you can check on this. So I use heart rate and pace to monitor to understand myself. This is how other conventional athletes, all the elite athletes, they are doing. Only scientists, the one you read from the blogs, right? They actually reverse engineer everything, right? So they find out like what's the heart rate and the pace that the elite athlete are running, right? Then they tell you like, okay, this is the pace you should be running. But the elite don't start with that. Actually, they don't like, oh, we should do this kind of heart rate, right? So they know, right? They know what they need to do. Okay. So you can do variation of easy run. Like just now you said like how fast should you run, right? I normally would like say, if you feel boring, the first 10-15 minutes, because easy run doesn't require warm up, correct or not? Not like interval running or tempo running. So you can start off with your zone 1 running, right? For 10-15 minutes. Once you're ready, then you can switch it to zone 2 without you even feeling anything. Because when the body warm up, right, you feel the same, but actually your speed increase, right? Correct or not? I think you all did that. But what you can do, right, is actually to increase the pace every 15 minutes, depending on the run. If you're a longer run, maybe you can do like 90 minutes, you can increase like every 30 minutes. For boosting confidence wise, you can add some tempo run or speed or interval speed during the last 300, 400 meter or 1K kind of thing. If you want to do tempo finishing, the last 2-3K or last 10-15 minutes, you can switch to a tempo pace. Normally, I will let you do this when it's close to racing time. If there's no race, I will do it in the middle of the phase just to see how you respond to it. Okay. Okay. Should you run alone or you run in a group? Okay. If run alone, you'll be very boring. You're scared you cannot finish the set because it's too long and you find it very bored, right? And if you do it in a group, you may end up overrun. I mean, like you run too fast because the whole pack is running like damn fast, and then you no choice, you have to follow them. It end up killing you. Everyone do zone 1, and then you do tempo already. So this is the challenge. But what I can suggest to you is you can mix from time to time, because you need to, once you get your speed right, understand your heart rate and pace already, right? After you secure the first two, your breathing and your posture, and you collect your heart rate and pace, now you know what are the normal pace you should be running or the heart rate you'll be running. So when you run in a group, right, you can control your pace. But I know some of you like, later I gonna tinggal how, gonna drop. So this is where you need to find someone who can really run at the same pace as you. Okay, running alone is not a big problem. I would say you still can run with music, right? Listening to music, but be careful where you run. You can run in the park with the music. I don't suggest you run with the music on the roadside or something like that, right? Very scary kind of things. Later got car coming, you're not focusing. When people want to shout at you, you cannot listen. Okay, so you can mix, but most importantly is running alone can really train your mental, especially for people who wants to go for podium. Sometimes you'll be in front alone, okay? And you need to know how to cycle yourself to finish the race without letting your competitors closing the gap with you, right? Yeah, because the back most probably gonna come in groups and you are alone in front. Then you need to play strategy lah. If you want to drop back to the pack and run together, or you want to keep running with your own speed kind of things and test your limit, right? So running alone got its own privilege. You can control your pace. No one can disturb you. No one can influence your pace. The only thing is you have to be mentally strong. Running in group, you don't feel the tiredness kind of thing when you run in a group, but sometimes because someone is pacing for you, do the pacing for you. But sometimes you'll be overtraining sometimes. Okay, so you have to keep check on this. Maybe once a week you can do a group training. Other than that, you can run alone kind of thing, right? Okay, that's all for easy long run. So now open for Q&A. In case I miss out something that you all have some question to ask me, I'll write it down and put in next time in future again if anyone wants to ask. Because some of you ask me the question, I keep on giving the same answer and again, right? So I put in the slide, so I straight away tell all of you at one time. Okay. So Q&A. Anybody got any question about easy one?
Nope, from me. Thank you for the answer just now.
But you get what I mean, right? Just now when I say.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah, another question. How long actually can we hold like 90% of our heart rate? Like how long the duration actually the elite can hold up to? Like 1 hour, 2 hour?
No.
Is there any? No, right? Cannot be, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Normally they will hold for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Then they drop the pace or they drop the.
One of the thing is because it's not because they cannot hold longer, because they need to run very fast. So they need to they need to time how long can the muscle hold before they really gong, you know, kind of thing.
Very gong, yes.
So once you know this information about yourself, right? You know when to attack. Let's say you do a 10K, you know you can hold for like 10 minutes. Takkan you want to attack when they still got another 5K to go, right?
Yeah.
So you should know where you stand, right? So that's why you see people like Kipchoge, they all right. The tempo run, they do until 40K, you know. So 40K is almost like 2.5 hours. Yeah, tempo run. So yeah, so you need to know like what you need to know yourself. So all these things you have to control. You have to control it.
Okay.
You don't go simply and attack. But for the rest of you, right? Do you need to go for high heart rate counting? Not really. I don't suggest that, because the first stage is all about running fast with lower heart rate. When I say running fast means you have a higher average pace than everybody else, and you can do it with lower heart rate, right? That is the main goal for most of you. And I believe even when you go for ultra running, right, it's all about efficiency. It's not about speed for now, because it's all about who can last until the end, and still you have a higher average pace than everybody else. That means like you can move faster, but you're having the same heart rate as everybody else. I give you an example. Maybe me and Jason, right? Jason can run like 5-minute pace at 140 beats per minute, or let's say you go for ultra running, and for me I can only hold like 6-minute pace at 140 beats per minute. If I want to follow Jason, I'll be end up maybe 155 or 160 beats per minute already. That means halfway throughout the run, I'll be gone, or I need to take a lot of breaks frequently compared to Jason. But if I don't chase up to Jason, right, there will be a huge gap, because we now can run at the same heart rate, right? But he has a faster speed, right? So he has an advantage over me in the long run. So for ultra running, it's also like if we can keep our heart rate lower, right, at the same time we can move at a higher pace, is desirable kind of thing. So if you're doing this kind of run, right, like even the run for Ironman, right, it will be good, because you're cycling and swimming, you'll be pushing very hard already, you know. So normally, because sometimes cycling you need to go uphill, downhill kind of things, and then like there's a lot of energy consumption there. So when you go to the run, if you can lower your heart rate while still can maintain a faster pace of running, right, you have advantage over everybody else. That's why easy long run is very important. But a lot of people, like, what happens is they do the easy long run too fast already, and end up injured, right? And one of the thing is like, okay, I mentioned things about the mileage, right? Like 2.5 hour, 2 hour. When I'm doing that, right, I spend 50 to 60%, or even up to 70% of the total duration on a turf field or on the football field. If I don't have any place to run like off-road, I will not go more than 90 minutes. So anybody else got any other question? Okay, so you clear what I'm saying, right? So we're finishing. Take one group photo. Okay, so now you understand. So next time, I cannot say don't ask me any more questions.
Send them the slide so they can read.
Jason,
I'm recording this, so I'll pause it. I'm gonna record the other one as well. I just touch up on the slide, so I will send the link to you all, then you all go and watch. Okay, so we finish here. We don't take too long. Okay, 3, 2, 1, stop.